Again, we're talking about team defense. Here we go. So what components make a team great at defense? And these are kind of, the four things to me and to our program that we focus on, at the high school level and getting you guys, you younger, 7th and 8th graders, getting you guys ready to play for us someday. These are the four biggest things, I think, when you talk to our high school guys. What do we focus on? These are those four things. So we'll go through each of these things as we move along here. But number one is physical on-ball defense. And you'll see we don't necessarily ask especially our midfielders, our shorties, we don't ask, our on-ball defender to win his matchup every single time, every single dodge, every single possession. We don't necessarily ask our guy to do that, but we want to be following our team principles and pushing our guy where we want him to go. And you'll see what I mean by that as we go. Number two is communication. All right. And we have a whole bunch of stuff on that, but our defense and our goalie, they have to be loud. You guys have to be loud as a defense. So you're communicating with each other. You're both talking and listening. Number three, we talk about is know your job and do your job, right? Do your job is probably the biggest thing we say all throughout the year. And you'll see what that means. But basically, it's just understanding your piece of the defense and doing your piece of the defense, and that's all you're concerned with. And you're not concerned with, all the different possibilities and what could happen here and what might happen there. And did this guy do his job? And did the goalie make the save he's supposed to make? We don't focus on any of that. We tell our guys, just focus on what your job is. Okay. And then the final thing is protecting the crease, right? And the phrase we sometimes use is love and protect your goalie. And you'll see what that area is that we want to protect and what that means. But, as a defenseman, when I was playing, it always seemed that kind of the goalie on my team was always one of my closest friends. And I think it was mostly because, as a defenseman, I always wanted to protect that guy and wanted to put everything on the line for that guy. So you guys as defensive players, and when you're on the defensive end, you got to do everything to sell out for your goalie. And goalies, you got to do your job to earn that too, right? And respect your teammates and help your teammates in the sense that they love and protect you back. All right, so first thing we talk about there is physical on-ball defense. And the cool part is we got some videos, we got some diagrams of the field, all stuff like that. So as we go, you'll see some different stuff. It's not just going to be me talking at the camera the whole time. But so great defense starts with the player covering the ball. So you guys are familiar with that, right? As coach says, let's get in one-on-ones, right? We want to see one-on-one defense. So obviously the way we play the ball, that starts how strong our defense is. If we can do the right things on the ball, we can force the ball where we want it to go. We can be more successful. So on ball, we want to be physical, but that means when you're playing defense, whether you're shorty or pull, you play with your feet and your hands first, and then with your stick. All right. So we'll watch Chris Fake at the end. He's a defenseman at Yale. He was Ivy League Rookie of the Year as a freshman. He's, in his junior year now, will be a senior next year, right down the road from us. One of the best defensemen in the country. You'll see him, and when you see him play, he definitely uses his stick a bunch, but you'll see his feet and his hands are always in the right positioning. And so what that means is you should be focused on throwing takeaway checks and going over the head and throwing hard slashes when, and another thing is guys love trail checks, right? Like trail check's not a great check because your feet and your hands are out of position. And that's why you had to get a trail check. And sometimes you get lucky and you hit it, but if you miss it, you're beat. All right. So feet and hands first, and then with your stick. This is another one, we'll talk about your mentality a little bit later, but your goal is to dictate to the offense rather than let him decide where the dot is going. Okay, so as a defenseman, we're always reacting to what the offense does, but your physical on-ball presence can dictate back to the offense and eliminate things for him and force him where you want him to go. Okay, and so right there it is. Your on-ball defense is about your stance and your attitude, right? And it's that physical, tough, mentally tough attitude that you're not going to get beat to where we don't want you to get beat. Okay, we'll move on to your on-ball stance. So we'll stop here for a sec. We got a YouTube video. Super basic, but I just want to make sure you guys are hearing from stuff other than just me the whole time. But here is a quick 40-second video talking about
whether the player is a short stick or long stick defender, there are basic tenements that all should stick to while playing defense. The defender needs to be in a nice athletic stance, with their butt low, their knees bent, and their feet shoulder width apart. Their hands need to be away from their body in order to act as a cushion in case the attacker tries to get into them. The stick should be at 45 degrees so they can poke, slap, or lift. Lastly, the defender needs to split the field in half, dictating where the attacker can dodge.
All right, so were you guys able to see that video or not really? Stormblazer, no, you couldn't see that? Let me see. Can we do it again? Does that time work better for you guys? No. Okay. Well, it's a video, short, quick, 40-second video. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there. Hopefully we can get the highlight tapes at the end working. But so what that video was this guy, he's a college coach, a former college player, was talking about just some of these points we've got right here, right? So sitting low with a bend in your knees, not your hips and waist, right? So your butt wants to be low to the ground. Chest and chin are up, keeping your weight balanced and not on your toes. A lot of times you'll see defensemen leaning forwards because they want to get low and they want to be in a low athletic stance, but to get down there, they lean forwards and they lean from their hips and from their waist forwards versus sitting down and keeping their chest and chin up. So having good balance is one of the keys to having your feet in the right positioning. So make sure you have your chest and chin up with a low, sitting low with a bend in your knees. And then your last piece, or two last pieces he talked about where your hands are out in front because you want your stick out in front, right? So as a long pole, you want the head of your stick straight out in front of you, covering the guy, putting your stick out in front, not on your hip. Shorties, you kind of want to be in a cross-checking position with your hands kind of split on your shaft. You don't want to have it pointed out like a poke check. You'd want to have it in like a cross-check, a hold kind of grip there. Okay, and so the last thing he talks about is cutting the field in half. All right, and so what that means is, you want to shade by half a step to the side you want to protect. Okay, putting one foot in front of the other, meaning your front foot is defending the side you want to protect, and standing at a slight angle, ready to open in the direction you want to force it. Okay, so those 3 points are how your stance, right, your on-ball stance, impacts where you put the guy, impacts cutting the field in half. Okay, so question was, why is it important to bend your knees? Well, you want to be really athletic. Think about if you were trying to dunk a basketball. Would you stand straight up and down and try and jump up to dunk the basketball? Absolutely not. You can barely get off the ground without any bend in your knees, right? If you just stand with your legs straight and dunk. Okay, the only way you could get there would be to squat down and then jump and dunk. Well, you might as well be standing down low like that so you're explosive right away versus having to be standing straight up and down, taking that time to squat down and then burst and move. And the sense of dunking a basketball would be up, but in the sense of playing defense would be side to side or backwards as the guy is dodging at you. So that's why it's important to be low with your knees bent in an athletic stance, because you're ready to move, you're ready to be explosive versus standing straight up and down. And honestly, we're talking about on ball, but your off ball stance should be about the same, right? Your chest and chin are up, keeping your weight balanced, but you want to sit low with a bend in your knees so you're explosive and ready to run, right? The backside should not be, standing straight up and down either. Okay, so here's what cutting the field in half means. So we've got an example of a bad stance, okay, and a good stance. Yes, we'll make sure that there was a question about the links, right? We'll make sure that you guys are able to check the video links. I'll put those out in the email, and then we'll also have this recorded. So we'll post all that stuff. So here we've got the bad stance over here on the left, and the good stance here on the right. So shading by half a step to the side you want to protect. So if you look at the bad stance, he's straight up and down, right? Straight up, square with the guy. Would be his right foot. The arrows are pointing the direction the guy's facing. The red is the defense. The black is the offense, right? So the red right foot would match up with the left, and left matches up with the right. That would be, square to him, even with him. If we want to be half a step to the side you want to protect, this guy would move over here. So if you look, right, if these arrows were pointing straight up and down, this foot would be here, the right foot would be here, and the left foot would be here, half a step in the direction that you want to protect. So in this case, we want to force this guy left to his left hand, right? That's why we got the stick lefty right here, forcing him to his left hand. A good stance would be half a step to the right, right? To the offensive player's right. As a defenseman, it would be to your left. Okay. That's a good question, right? Depending on what stick their hand is on, does it matter what stance you take? Not necessarily, right? What we care more about is, and more than where their stick is which direction do you want to push them as a defenseman, right? So in this case, we want to force this guy this way. Even if he had a stick in his right hand, if our job was to force him over here, and you'll see when we talk about team defense on a field, I'll show you guys that in a sec. We want to force this guy to his left hand. Even if he has it in his right hand, we'd still take that same approach to force this guy in this direction, okay? So putting one foot in front of the other, and your front foot defends the side you want to protect. So if this was my, I'm the guy in red here, that's my left foot, that's my right foot. My left foot is in front of my right, and my front foot is protecting. So if I put my right foot in front of my left, I'd actually be letting this guy run, to the side I don't want him to go, letting him go right-handed. Okay, by putting my left foot forwards and my right foot behind, just by a tiny little bit, that helps me take away this side of the field. It makes it so that I'm square this way on an angle instead of flat, letting him pick either way. That's the biggest thing about this bad stance is the offense gets to pick if he wants to go this way or this way. Everything we're doing here in the good stance is trying to force this guy to dictate to him, go to your left hand. Okay, and the final piece here we talk about is standing at a slight angle, ready to open in the direction you want to force him. Okay, so standing in a slight angle, ready to open in the direction you want to force him. So that's that angle that the feet are not even. You get there by putting one foot in front of the other. That puts you at a slight angle, and now you want to make sure that you're ready to open in this direction. So you want to play him, right? So you're physically stopping him from driving to his right, and the second he goes to his left, you want to be ready to open up and run with him in this direction. Okay. There's some other higher level concepts about trailing your man as he dodges to his left and not overplaying him so he rolls right back to his right. But this is kind of your on-ball stance, your super basic, how do you approach the ball, get out there and play the ball, and dictate to an offensive player. What does that mean and how do I do it? These are your three big keys. The other thing you can think about too is as a long pole is putting your stick, taking away the side the guy wants to go. As a shorty, we shouldn't really do that. We'd be ready to drive our guy. We want to be more physical with our hands there. But as a long pole, you'd want to put your stick. If I was, this guy in the red right here again, I'd want to put my stick towards this side of this guy's body. Okay, it's not a huge thing, right? But instead of putting it right in his stomach, I might want to put it on this side of his body early in his dodge. And what that does is it prevents him from doing a split dodge really quickly from his left to his right to try and beat me to his right hand. Okay. Now, the question is, what if the attackman or midfielder has a strong left hand? That's a really good question. Well, again, what we talked about is we want to do our job on defense. Now, in a young youth level, right? So let's say 5th and 6th grade, there might be some guys who are super one-handed, and there are even guys like that in high school and even into college. But at a young level, you can get away with saying, this guy's a lefty, and all he is a lefty, so I don't want to let him go lefty no matter where he is on the field. Okay, and for us at the high school level, we want to teach our guys in a way that prepares them best for college. That's, more than winning high school championships, is we want our guys to be ready, to be great lacrosse players and understand why they're doing what they're doing. Okay. So we want to force our guy to certain areas of the field, and we'll see that as we move along, but that is another great question. To us, it doesn't matter what hand this guy is. We want to force him in one direction. Now, your coach may have a scouting report like we just talked about and say, this guy is the best lefty we're going to see all spring. Well, we probably shouldn't put the best lefty in the whole entire league, put him to a strong hand running right at me. We might adjust that in-game or pre-game. You might say this is a guy, or maybe the guy scored 4 goals in the first quarter. You say, okay, we can't let him shoot lefty anymore. We got to make him a righty no matter what. All right. But in general, unless there's a specific scout, our general team defense, we would want to force a guy to a specific area because of our principles, not because of the offensive guy. All right. So the next piece, hold on one sec. There's another question. Are there physical cues to look for in the opponent that can notify you what their dodge decision will be when forcing them to one side? there's some little things you can pick up on, whether it's their hip, their body language, kind of how their first step is, which direction their first step is moving. But what I would say is, as a good defenseman, you want to put yourself in a good stance to force the guy one way, drive him to the direction we want to drive him. And, as a long pole, putting your stick out in front really does a lot for you. It makes the guy make his dodge 6 feet away from you, right? If the head of your stick is where the guy has to make his dodge, he makes it 6 feet away, and you have extra time to react to his dodge. So, there aren't specific, or like a cheat code to say, all right, when your guy steps with his left foot like this, he's going to go to his left, or he's going to go to his right, right? And that's some of the things that offensive guys are getting better and better at too, is, there's a split dodge, there's a jab step, and a jab split. And all those dodges can look very similar. Your stick would be in one hand versus the other, but they all look very similar in the footwork. And that's where, offensive guys are making it more difficult. And if you take away one side of the field, then you don't bite for, a jab before he splits, or the fake step before he splits, and you trust that you're forcing the guy in the correct direction, you can play better one-on-one defense than saying, okay, I'm looking for his stick to move one way, or his feet to move one way, or his hips to move another way. But that's another good question. So next, communication. So on the defensive end of the field, we want constant communication. And when we talk about communication, that means talking and listening. For good team defense, you've got to be able to not only know what you're doing and tell your teammates what you're doing, right? But you have to be able to hear what your teammate says and react to it. Okay, you have to hear what your goalie calls. You have to hear what your slide guy calls, your backside defense, the recovery defense, right? The backside guys, what they say, you have to be able to hear it. You have to listen to what they say and react. And so we talk about it in 2 different levels, right? So first level communication, you guys, this is, what you should really focus on, making sure you're great at this stuff on the defensive end. Okay. And that's what we classify as the basics. You guys should be very good at this by the time you're, finishing 8th grade, right? So it was, I'm hot, fire, find one. Okay. That's our sliding communication. And you'll see that, on a diagram in a minute. And I'm 2, that's our 2 slide, which is the second slide, which is the guys on the back side of the defense helping the crease, right? At a minimum, every time we're playing defense, every time the ball moves, we should be hearing those, at least I'm hot and I'm 2, those 2 things being called. You'd only say fire when it's time to slide, and you're only saying find one, as the slide guy gets to the ball carrier. But I'm hot and I'm 2, I got your 2. Those should be constant, right? Those should be every time the ball moves. And then these 2 are every time there's a slide. Now, the second level communication, this is what, find one. That's a good question. Asking what that means. We will go over that. We'll go over all 3 of those or all 4 of those on a diagram, so you guys can see it on the field, what it means to say find one and what that would start, what process that starts, which is our recovery. Okay. But second level communication. All right. This is what makes a defense great, is if the defense can talk this way to each other, they become a great defense. And what it means really is it's the talk that helps your teammate do their job. Right. So if you look at the first 4 things we had up here, first level communication, this is all about yourself, right? This is all about your own job. Okay. Your first level communication, first person, right? The basics. What am I doing? And telling your teammates what I'm doing. Second level communication is where you branch out and you start talking about what your teammates are supposed to be doing and what their jobs are. Okay. So that's maybe if I'm a good defenseman, I'd say I'm the 2 slide. I'm helping the crease. You're hot. That would tell the guy on the crease, he should be saying, I'm hot and ready to slide. Okay. Another thing is if I'm the slide guy, I'm the hot guy. All right. Get my 2 right here. So that's a, kind of a long phrase. That's the way I would say it, but something along those lines of, right, the 2 is right here. So I'm ready to slide. I'm ready to go. I'm saying I'm hot. And before I say fire, I want to make sure that the crease is covered, right? And so get my 2 is our second slide. You're pointing out to the defense, to your teammates, where that slide is. Okay, rotate with me. That'd be if we were kind of adjacent sliding. Instead of just saying rotate, meaning I'm rotating, you could be talking to your teammate and say, Nick, rotate, Nick, rotate, Nick. And it tells your teammate what he's supposed to be doing. Okay. And then another thing is, I'm high, you're low. That's on the backside helping, right? I'll show you guys that on the field. But basically, these are not the only 4 things. These are just 4 examples of what second level communication is. And now this is, as a defense and as a goalie, if you guys can get to this point where everybody is talking or half the defense is talking, you'll see even one guy doing extra communication on the second level changes the way a defense plays. It changes the way an offense hears the defense and feels about, how confident they are going against the defense. And then if you can get everybody doing this, where everybody not only knows their jobs, they know their teammates' jobs. Not only they know their teammates' jobs, but they're able to communicate to them real time in the middle of 6-on-6 defense. That's when the defense becomes great. And that's the standard at the high school that we hold, right? Is that we expect every player that gets on the field for us to be part of our second level communication, not just first level. Okay, by the time you're a varsity player. All right, any questions there? I know we have the find one question. We'll get to that on the next slide. Any other questions for that segment? All right, cool. Communication is key, we said, right? So knowing your job and doing your job. So you'll see the diagrams, I believe, are the next slide. We start there. But all players are responsible for knowing all of the jobs on the defensive end of the field, right? Not just, okay, well, I know what to do when I'm the slider, or I know what to do when I'm on ball, or I know what to do on the backside. You have to know all of the jobs. Now, they're not that crazy. There's definitely some, things you have to do, some things you have to understand to be good at them, but fundamental concepts dictate those jobs, right? So you'll see on the next slide what I mean by that, but it's not like you're going to memorize 50 different things, right? You're just going to memorize or understand, really not memorize, but understand fundamental concepts, and that will dictate to you what your job is in that situation and what to do. Okay, each player, this is the big thing for us, right, is these next 2 points, right? Each player focuses on doing their job to the best of their ability, and you trust your teammate to do their job. That's the along with the communication, that's the essence of team defense right there, right? Is I'm not focused on everything. I'm focused on my job. I'm focused on what I'm supposed to do. And then I trust the guy next to me, right, that all the other guys next to me are going to do their job too. Okay, and if we're all doing the pieces correctly, the unit works as a whole, right? If there's a weak link, things can fall apart, and that's where you get breakdowns. That's where you give up goals, is if there's one guy not following everybody else, not doing his job and worried about too many things, right? And it happens a lot where guys are trying to like pick off passes or be extra aggressive on the slide, and instead of just doing what they're supposed to do, they're trying to step up and make a play and be the hero. And then all of a sudden that guy starts going and his teammates aren't ready for that action that's outside the team concept, and then things can fall apart. And so it's not necessarily a weak link and like a weak player or a bad player. It's more of a guy who's not doing his job, who's not playing team defense, who's not a piece within the machine that makes a great defense. Okay, so going along with knowing your job and doing your job, this is where we really get into team defense. This is again, these are the exact slides we show to our high school guys, right? So at the high school level, we call our defense blue. That's our base defense anytime there's a guy in the crease. So the red is the offense. The black is the defense. We got our goalie in there as well. Okay, and then we've also got our LSM. He's orange because he's our hot guy. He's getting ready to slide. Okay, and so Jack, I'll get to your question in another slide or two about what does find one mean. But anytime there's a guy in the crease, we want to slide from the crease. All right, now your coach may have different packages, different sliding ideas or schemes. Okay, but 99% of the time there's a guy in the crease, we're going to slide from the guy in the crease. Okay, we have some adjustments to the high school as well, but our LSM right now, he would be saying, I'm hot. Okay, so LSM would be saying, I'm hot, I'm hot, I'm hot. All right, and what that means is if DM1, right, D midi 1 gets beat by M3, which we want him to go down the alley, if he gets beat, our LSM is the guy that's going to slide to stop the ball carrier. Okay, again, our communication is I'm hot, fire, and find one. Okay, so the first thing he'd be saying is I'm hot. When it's time to slide, he's going to say fire. All right, the last thing you'll see on this slide, okay, when we slide from the crease, the backside of the defense shares the second slide. And so what that means is some teams and some coaches will say, anytime the ball is here, right, this guy, that X, his guy that covers him, he's responsible for M1 when LSM slides. Okay, and some guys might say, all right, D1 is responsible, or in certain spots, D3 is responsible. To us, the whole backside. So that means anybody who's away from the ball carrier, the whole backside of the defense helps the crease. They're the two slides. So D1 and D2 are slides for us, two slides for us when LSM goes. Now, as M3 dodges, we want DM2 to get in there as well, right? Because the ball's moving away from him. M2 is less dangerous. We want him to get inside. So our crease guy is our hot guy. Now, let's talk about fire, okay? Fire means we're sliding, all right? A good time to slide is when you see DM1, when you see his chest, right? You see the numbers on the front of his jersey, all right? If you see the numbers on the front of his jersey, he's running full speed, sprinting down the field, chasing after M3, okay? If his shoulders are kind of facing this way, like he's pushing the guy, right? He's got his hands on M3. He's pushing him that way. His chest would be facing this way. We're a little bit slower to slide. You don't have to go as quickly, but you definitely want to go when you see DM1, right? His chest facing towards you as the LSM. Okay, so DM1, he does his job, right? All he has to do is force M3 down the alley. Honestly, we don't care if he stops M3 from getting to a shooting spot. All right, what we care about is that M3 runs this way with the ball in his stick. We don't want him to go this way. Now, I know it's not written down here, but I'll just give you guys why that is, right? Why do we not want M3 to go to the middle? Because I always want you guys to understand why we're doing things, not just doing it because coach told me to do it. Okay, so as M3 moves to the middle of the field, okay, here's my mouse. As he moves to the middle of the field, his shot is going to get better every step he takes, right? His shot gets better. As M3 moves to the alley, he's getting wider and wider and wider. His shot is getting worse every step he takes. So number one, for M3's shot, we're putting him to a lower percentage shooting area out here than here, where it's a higher percentage. Number two reason why is his feeding options, right? So as M3 dodges the alley, it's very hard for him to hit M2 without slowly rolling back and throwing back or stepping off and throwing a pull pass. Okay, so that's not really a feeding option to score. Okay, as M3 dodges the alley, he might be able to hit M1 on the crease. It's going to be hard for him to hit A2 on the backside if we're playing good defense. Okay, he could throw the ball forwards to A1 if he sneaks to this pipe, and he could throw it forward to A3. All right, so the only threatening one for a shot really is M1. Okay, and maybe if A1 sneaks to that pipe, he might be able to catch and dunk right there. Okay, but as M3 dodges to the middle, he can basically pass to M2, A2, M1, A1 on this pipe. He has 4 feeding options, and all 4 of those guys, as M2 moves this way on his dodge, M2 is a shooter right here. A2 is a shooter right here. M1 is a shooter right there. A1 sneaking to this pipe, shooter right there. Okay, so for us as a defense, we want to take away all those feeding options. We want to make those feeding options really just pass forward options or roll away and slowly pass back options. All right. And then the third reason is predictability, right? We want to know where our slide is going every time. So the LSM knows that he's going down the alley. I know where I'm sliding. It just makes the defense as a unit run a lot easier, a lot cleaner when there's a dodge down the alley and this guy knows where he's going every single time. Okay. So, looking at the notes at the bottom here, right, we want to force M3 down the alley, preventing a sweep at the start. So a sweep would be a dodge this way across the middle of the field, right? If we put a line right down the middle of the field, we don't want M3 to cross that line over here, okay? And also preventing a rollback during the dodge. So that would be if M3 dodged down the alley, stopped, rolled back, and still got to that middle area we don't want to give him. Okay, so those are the 2 things he's really trying to prevent. Okay, he does it by trailing by half a step. When we did that half a step on that approach, we showed that he should maintain that half step all the way through the dodge, driving on the guy's hip. Okay, now LSM as a hot guy. I know this is a lot of info, so jot down any questions in the chat that you guys have. But so LSM as the hot guy, his job is to slide and stop M3 before he reaches a dangerous shooting position. All right, so for us at the high school, we say we don't want anybody shooting inside 12 yards. If we give up 12 yards and out shots, we're going to give up very few goals. All right. If we give up shots inside 10 yards, we're going to give up a lot of goals, I would imagine. I don't expect goalies to save 10-yard shots or in at, a 60% save percentage, right? But we do expect them to make those kinds of saves, that percentage, from outside 12 yards, 12 yards or further. So LSM, his job is to get to M3 before he's dangerous to score. All right. So that doesn't mean he needs to slide to stop him at the restraining line. That doesn't mean he slides to stop him at 10 yards. Okay, based on your goalie, based on the shooter, right? You want to stop him at a dangerous area. We say typically about 12 yards from the goal. There may be a game where we say, hey, this guy's a, unbelievable shooter. Let's slide to get him to stop him earlier, right? Let's make him pass the ball instead of shooting the ball from 13. I'd rather him just pass the ball to that guy anyways. All right, even though 13 we might save normally, with this guy we don't want to risk it. Make him throw the ball to that guy instead. All right, so again, pop any questions you got into the chat there. We're going to move to the next slide. All right, this is our backside defense and our 2 slides. Okay, so if you look, right, we've got DM1 is covering the ball. LSM slid. He's now putting on pressure. Question was, if A3 stays in that spot, we'll just go back for a second. If A3 stays in that spot, can D3 get a double? It's risky. It is a little bit risky. Now, if A3 is hanging out over here, absolutely. But if A3 is a smart attackman and D3 starts to go to the ball, A3 is going to step right, basically where D3 is standing. He's going to step right there, pass forwards, catch, bunk, goal. Okay. And it's very difficult. That's a really good question, Cisco. Right. But it's difficult to slide adjacent, right, to a guy's face. Okay. The double team, I'd rather see, I wouldn't want to see it, really at all in this, a double team from anybody but the LSM, right? But would be if this guy's like going back and forth and DM2 chases him from behind. Or if he rolled back, D3 might be able to chase him from behind. But really, we shouldn't be doubling from the adjacents. We should be sliding from the crease when there's a crease guy. Okay. This would be a dangerous spot. Same thing if A1 had the ball and he dodges this way. D1 to go presser the ball, that would give A2 a lot of space right here to catch and score. Right. So when we have a crease guy, we want to go from the crease. We'd rather not double adjacent, and we'd rather go from the crease. But that's a good question. Really good question. So again, we're here now. We're at the sliding point, right? LSM has said fire. Okay. And now he gets to the ball carrier. LSM gets ball pressure on M3 at 13 yards, 14 yards, doesn't let him get a shot off. If you look, D1, D2, and DM2, all three of them help in, right? Because as M3 goes this way, okay, the question that was about D3 helping, I want D3 to stay home and not let A3 catch and score. So as the ball's moving towards him, D3 is moving towards his man. Okay, he can stay kind of in the clogging, the dodging lane as long as A3 can't catch and shoot, right? But D3 wants to stay close to his man. M2 is not that dangerous as M3 moves this way, right? M2 is not that dangerous. M1 is very dangerous. So we want D1, D2, and DM2 to all help in and protect the crease. Right, they're all responsible for protecting the crease, right? The phrase we use at the high school, and we make sure every guy in our program knows this exact phrase, okay? This midi, as a midi dodges the opposite, right? So this DM1 gets dodged down the alley, whether it's an LSM, a pole, defenseman, or a shorty, as this guy dodges the alley, our backside midi, our backside high player has to get at or below the level of the ball. And you see that right here in quotes, because that's a phrase that all of our guys have to know. We ask them, and if they say, you got to be, even with the ball, we say that's wrong, right? We have to be at or below the level of the ball. So we want to get down and help in as this dodge goes opposite, okay? And we're talking about dodging, not as the ball is just moving around in a circle, right? You don't have to be into the crease when the ball is right here, okay? But as this guy dodges, you got to be below the level of the ball, helping down to the crease. Okay. And based on where M1 moves, that determines who is most responsible, right? If M1 pops top center right here, DM2 is going to be more responsible for M1 than D2, who's also got the guy at X, right? We wouldn't want D2 to run all the way up to top center and the ball gets passed to A1, to A3, to A1, and he starts dodging and D2 standing all the way up here, right? So if M1 pops off this way, right, we'd let D1 cover him a little bit more than D2. If he moves down right in front of the goalie, we want D2 to cover that more than DM2. We don't need DM2 and D2 and the goalie all hanging out in the crease. Okay, so I know this is higher level stuff, and I'm hopeful you guys are picking this up. We've had some really good questions. You guys, if you have more questions, keep throwing them in the chat right there. But this is how you play high level defense. And again, this exact slide is a slide that all of our defensemen get. They all see this. This is posted in our locker room, teaching our guys what, it just says blue defense instead of team defense because we call it blue. Okay. The last spot. Here you go, Jack. Here's your question. What does find one mean? All right. So LSM, he's the hot guy. So he's already said, I'm hot. He's already said fire, right? Which meant he's sliding. And now when he puts pressure, when LSM puts pressure on M3, right? And basically LSM becomes the on-ball defender instead of the slider. He becomes on ball. He says, find one. Okay. And what that does is it tells DM1, your job is to now go into our crease and find an open guy. All right. So find one tells the on-ball player, in this case, DM1, get into the crease and find one. All right. That's why we say find one, to make it so that it's very simple. And it's a good reminder to DM1 or our guy that's recovering. We call this recover back into the defense. Find one. Okay. Now, if all the guys stayed in the same spot, which you guys all know offensively, they typically don't, right? They typically like to move around and cut and get all over the place, right? But if they stayed in the exact same spot, it'd be very easy. DM1 would just come in here and cover the crease and everybody else stays matched up. Okay. Now, D1 and D2 and even DM2, those three guys, they are talking to DM1. They're talking to our recover guy and saying, right here, right here, right here, right? This guy would be, number 10, right? Let's say number 10 on the other team. They'd say, hey, you got 10, you got 10. And that tells this guy that's recovering, you got this guy right here on the crease. They should also be pointing physically pointing with their hands to the guy they want him to cover. Because sometimes what happens is M1 moves over here, right? And so DM1 runs back into the crease, and there's nobody there for him to cover. Or, A3 cuts through, but D3 is still on him. There's nobody in here for DM1 to cover. D1, D2, and DM2 should be saying, hey, he's out here, right? Back wing, back wing. And they'd be saying, number 10, number 10. And they'd point right out here to M1 if he moves this way. Okay, so that's what find one means, is when the slide guy gets to on ball, he says find one. That tells our guy that was used to be on ball, that tells him to recover in and find an offensive player to cover. All right, so DM1, his job, no matter, he feels like, I was actually in pretty good defense on M3. No, you might have been, but the LSM slid. Your job is to get back in no matter what. Don't stay on a double team. Don't stay there, right, just because you think you're in good defense. Listen to your teammate. Do your job. Your job is now not to cover the ball anymore. That's LSM's job. DM1, your job is to recover in and find our guy on the crease, right? If they stayed in these same spots, the crazy part is, right, this ball moves ahead to A3, moves ahead to A1, DM1 gets back in the crease. DM1 goes from being on ball to hot, right? He's immediately our hot guy, all right? We call that reloaded. At the high school level, right, we'd say we want to slide, recover, and reload. We want to reload our slide so we're ready to go, okay? But I believe that's it, right? So that's basically, team defense in a nutshell, pretty in-depth. Again, that's the same exact way we teach this to high school guys. Every high school guy in our program is expected that if they're called on in a meeting, to stand up and draw it all on a whiteboard, right? And we expect those guys to do it, and most of our guys are able to do it. We have a tackman we ask to step up and draw this up and draw. Okay, well, what if A2 has the ball? Redraw every defensive player, where they stand, right? And how we slide, who's hot, who's the two, and where we would recover if this guy on the crease cuts to this spot, right? All of our guys are able to do that. And it comes just from learning, comes from time spent on this. So if you guys got any more questions on this stuff, again, I think every single question so far has been, a really, really good question. Just throw them in there. We're going to move along, but we can come back, of course. All right. So this was the one about protecting the crease, right? Loving and protecting your goalie. We talked about it a little while ago about not letting guys shoot from inside 12 yards, right? This green circle on the field right here, this obviously doesn't exist in real life, okay? But that's the area of the defense, the area of the field we want to protect at all costs. So the offense is in that same formation of 1-3-2, right? If M3, these red arrows are all, if a guy dodges, where do we want him to go? Okay, so if any of these exterior guys, so anybody dodging from the wing, we always want to force them back behind the net, right? So on either wing, we want to force them under. We don't want to let them get to the middle of the field, all right? And that's the same reasons we talked about earlier for those other ones, right? So M3, the alley dodges, right, from up top, we want to force those guys wide and towards the corners. A1, dodging behind the net, right? We want to keep him behind the net. This dashed line, that's goal line extended, GLE. We want to keep him behind the net, all right, on that dodge there. Not letting him above the goal. And then the last piece right here, this is what you'll see when we watch team defense in a minute. And if you watch any good team defense, I was trying to find some good clips of our team from last year to show, and, there was a couple, but, the way our program clips them, they're only like 20 seconds long. So, I got some Loyola defense, but off-ball defense, we should have at least 4 players inside this green crease circle, okay? So one of the guys that shouldn't be in the crease is the guy covering the ball. So, the dodges we've just done, go back a couple, right? In this situation, DM1 is not going to be inside that green circle because he's covering the guy with the ball, all right? So he gets, an excuse to not be in that green circle, right? But the other guys should be in there, okay? The other guy, when you think 4, I said 4 guys have to be in there all times, okay? We've got our hot guy, he's definitely in there. Our backside guys are definitely in there. And then our adjacent player in the direction the ball does not dodge. So the ball dodges this way. D3 can start working out to A3 and be outside that green circle. But DM2, that's covering M2, we want him to get down and inside this green circle. Okay, if we can clog up this dodging space, we can clog up where they can dodge to score. We can clog up where they want to cut to catch and shoot. All right, it makes it very hard for the offense to score if we don't give them any room inside that green circle. All right, here we go. So that's basically the presentation there. We got one more slide after these. We're going to get the Loyola team defense first, then we'll go to Chris Fake, his on-ball highlights. as I get this started, somebody just comment in the chat if you guys are able to see it right off the bat here, please. Are you guys able to see that video? Is that coming through? No? Jeez. Let's see. I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's see. Is this let's see what we got here. No. Let's see if this works. No, I got this to work the other day. So let me hang on one sec here. Oh, here we go. I think I know what's going on here. Hold on one sec. How about now? We got the video now? Yeah, here we go. All right, cool. Figured it out. All right, here we go. So we're going to watch. This is Loyola Greenlee. Very excited. Awesome. We're going to watch Loyola play some team defense here. And I'll talk through a little bit. You guys can hear me too, right? There we go. Perfect. Play some team defense. So right now, right, the ball carrier is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and even this guy, he's standing in the crease, but he's protecting this area, that green circle we had. All right. Yeah, this guy's got a stick up, ready to catch and shoot. He's ready to catch and shoot, but this guy is much more dangerous than the backside of the defense. So we want to have a lot of guys in there protecting that crease. Okay. Going. The short stick defensive player we talked about is on ball splitting the field in half, right? So number one, you see his feet are staggered. Okay. One is left foot in front of the right. Okay. Number two, he's on an angle, right? That helps him force this guy in this direction. Okay. And he's also trailing by half a step. This guy is at X and he's a little bit on this, backside back right of the goal. So he's driving his play. 40. Okay. But again, right. So you see, we'll back up 5 seconds. He's on the defense, but the second the ball starts, the midfielder works out. He does a good job of engaging, right? That's meaning putting his hands on his man. He does a good job of engaging his guy pretty high. That allows his team to have enough time to slide to help him if they need it. There we go. They're going. Again, all of the offensive guys except for one are in that area, but the whole defense is in tight. Give it a quick aggressive slide. That's a double team. So Cisco, you asked about double teams. Okay. I like double teams. So this guy is looking this direction. Now, you don't want to do this every time, but this guy's looking this way. Does he see this double team coming? Absolutely not. that's a time where it's all right to double. Okay, it's better to double in that situation than it is somewhere, from his face. If this guy doubled, he's going to throw to this guy for a step down and score. Okay, but because this guy doubled from behind his head, he doesn't see it coming until his gets free and moves the ball forwards. Okay, you watch the team defense; they're protecting inside out, off ball. When this guy has it behind the net, they're worried about cutters coming in. This guy just said fire. He gets there. He says find one. That's the recovery guy right there. We'll go back from right here. Okay, I'm pointing with my finger. We're going to slide from this guy right here. He's ready to go. I'm hot. I'm hot. I'm hot. It's fire. That tells the defense I'm sliding. Better, help me cover my guy. And he says find one. That tells this guy get into the middle and find somebody. Defense right there. Okay, so that right there, that is good team defense. Let me get back to, actually, no, we'll just exit out. A good 6-on-6 team defense. You guys got to see a few different things, a few different things there. All right. Next one we're going to see. Okay, this one I'll put the volume back on for. So this is Chris Fake, Ivy League Rookie of the Year. His freshman year highlights. So this is, back not last season, but the season before. Okay, but this was when he was Rookie of the Year in the whole entire Ivy League. You'll see he covers some of the best players in the country across this video. We won't watch the whole thing, but you guys, this is an easy video for you to find. You can find tons and tons of videos online. Something you guys should definitely be doing. Mike Earhart, this is another video. I think he's maybe the best defenseman in the world right now. Played on Team USA, played on the Charlotte Hounds in the MLL, and now he's on the Whipsnake Champions of the PLL. He's one of the most dynamic offensive and defensive poles, long stick midi, and defense behind the net. But here we go with Chris Fake. We'll watch his clips right here. You guys check this out. He's number 31 for Yale. All right, right down the road from us. With the freshman Chris Fake on.
Likes that left. You see he's capable right-handed, but it's a lot of two-man game.
I mentioned Chris Fake, the freshman, be checking Fields all day long. Think about the attackman he's gone against playing in the Ivy League. T. Sowers. Played against Cuccinella with Villanova early in the year. He won't be intimidated. Got his stick high, though. No call. Fields wanted it.
We'll talk about Teat from Cornell at halftime.
Fields goes down. That is not good news right there. What happened here? Fields has been coming back from an injured MCL. He missed 2 complete games. Dustin Diamond now in the game for Albany. Fantastic check to dislodge it from Dahoka.
Right, so that one-on-one defense right there, that's about as good physical.
2 complete games.
About as good physical hands and foot defense, right? His hands and his feet.
From an injured MCL.
First year.
He missed 2 complete games.
Dahoka, right, from Albany, one of the power dodgers, one of the best power dodgers in the country. He plays with his hands.
Dustin Diamond now in the game.
Goes to his stick, then he throws a check. Okay, but he played him physically with his hands and his feet first.
For Albany. Fantastic check to dislodge it from Dahoka.
Chris Fake moves from Fields right over to Dahoka. Different players, but Fake's going to be a good one by the time he's done here. It's so good. They're both so quick with their hands that you get tied up. It's a 50-50 ball, and you're not going to give an inch because that's going to give the possession to the other team.
Speaking of not giving an inch,
Fake's awesome.
Dahoka is just trying.
Connor Fields is the quick change of direction, and he's been outstanding on both.
Tough angle shot by Anticoke. Anticoke is 6'1", 235 pounds.
What a slide.
O'Connor comes and dislodges it.
This Yale defense is flying around.
Will Weitzel.
They would be 7-8 and mathematically ineligible for an at-large. There's Simon Matthias, Penn's leading scorer this season, 3 and blue. Matthias from X against the freshman Chris Fake. Fake, the Ivy League Rookie of the Year. There's Matthias, goal line extended. Again, Fake shadowing him. How about the footwork by 31? Errant pass for the crease.
Well, you just look in the past, and they've been a save or two away in the NCAA tournament. Is this the guy that finally stabilizes that position?
Fletcher doubled, knocked loose. Cornell had the ground ball. Now it's Teets isolated against Fake. Teet stays with it. Aggressive defense by Fake. Teet changing directions, turning around. Fake stays with him. Low pass.
Really pouring it on in this second quarter, and a lot more possession than they did in the first. Charlie O'Brien dumps it inside. Not a clean window. Ball is loose. Chris Fake all over that one, and that's why he's the Ivy League Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll stop it there. You guys, should jump online, watch a bunch of these, highlight videos of these guys. Hold on one sec. Sorry. Here we go. All right. You got my screen now. All right. So, you guys should jump online, watch a bunch of these highlight videos, check these guys out. Last thing we'll talk about here, and then we'll finish up, is kind of our keys. And this is a recap of what we just did. Okay. And again, we have this exact slide. There's a couple more things, right? I think we've got 12 concepts we want our high school guys to remember. There's 3 that are a little bit higher level for you guys. But, this exact slide with a couple extra things there is posted in our locker room, and that's our expectation for our defense. So, crease defender is our hot guy. We talked about that. I think you guys get that, right? The guy on the crease playing defense is our hot guy. Okay, we share the second slide with multiple players collapsing to the crease. So the backside of the defense, their job is to work in to help that crease, right? The crease is inside that green area. We don't want anybody scoring in there, so we'd rather cover that guy than guys that are outside. Okay. On ball, you must force your man where we want him to go. Force him down the alley, force him underneath on the wing, and force him back to X when you're behind. Okay. On ball shorties, right? So that SS means short stick defenders, and number 4. They're not expected to consistently win their 1v1 matchup. What we want is their guy, forced to where we want him to go, and we can slide. Anticipating the slide and be predictable in the slide if our on-ball shorty defender, he doesn't have to win his matchup, he just has to push him where we want him. Okay, we didn't talk about it too much today as off ball, but a ball you man triangle, you want to be able to always see the guy with the ball. You always want to be able to see your man. If you're standing in a straight line between the ball and your man, you won't be able to see both at the same time. So you have to take a couple steps backwards typically into the defense to create that triangle where, essentially your left hand could point to the ball and your right hand could point to your man, or vice versa. The calls of the defense for us are I'm hot, fire, and find one. That's our slide communication. Okay, something we didn't actually talk about today, but for you goalies, right, our goalie should be the vocal leader. The goalie is in a position where he can see everything in front of him typically. All right, when the ball's at X, he doesn't, but when the ball's up top, he should see everything, and he should be able to talk to the crease guy, right? If I'm the hot guy on the defense, I'm not really always looking over my shoulder back into the defense to see what's happening on the backside. I'm looking towards the ball carrier to be ready to slide. Our goalie is behind that all typically, and he can see everything, and he should be our vocal leader. So at the high school, 100%, we expect our goalies to be vocal leaders. We expect our goalies to know all of these important keys and know how to play team defense. If we ask them to pick up a pole, not that we're gonna, but they should be able to understand all that stuff and be comfortable jumping out there with a pole. If we ever ask them to, but we wouldn't ask them to do that. It's just the concept of them understanding the team defense that well. Okay. Number 8, high volume and second level communication. Okay. Again, that is, communication at a second level, a different level, a higher level. That's what makes a defense great. More than just saying what your job is, but it's understanding your teammate's job, and not only understanding his job, but communicating to him about his job. Okay. And when you have 7 guys, your 6 defensive players plus the goalie doing that, it's very hard to score on defense. Okay. Number 9, this is another thing we didn't talk about, but you guys understand what this means, right? First time ground balls and first time clears. We don't want to give extra possessions to the other team by missing ground balls or missing clears or any of that. And then this last bottom part here is just kind of a paragraph that sums up our defense if I had to put it into a few sentences, right? But you guys can read through that. I don't have to necessarily read it word for word, but we want to play predictably. We want to play together. We want to slide fast. We want to slide hard. Okay. And then there you see that reload, right? Reload, reslide over and over again. Communication is the key. And this is something that you guys have to understand, right? This is another high level concept, is that you can make a mistake, right? The defense can make a mistake, or the on ball guy can get beat, or the slide could be from the wrong guy. But as long as the defense and all 7 guys make that mistake together, right? If we went adjacent and one of those double teams happened, but we had a 2 slide ready behind it, you can get away with it, right? You can have success doing the wrong thing if everybody is on the same page. Okay. And then this is the last part, is we give up goals when one guy makes the mistake, and that's the weak link. One guy makes the mistake and no one else is there to cover for him, or his next job, his next teammate isn't there to cover for him. So we try to play predictably. We try to play as a team. I hope you guys, found this to be pretty valuable. Just trying to get off of that share. Okay. Hope you guys found this to be very valuable for you. I love doing this stuff. I wish we were out on the field. I wish we were out coaching these guys. It's crazy to think that the season would be started already, and instead we're sitting at home doing webinars online. But I hope that you guys are picking up some stuff, some IQ and some understanding. And that's one of the hardest skills to develop, I think. And as a coach, it's one of the hardest skills for a coach to help develop in a kid is their IQ. And it comes a lot of times from reps, but it also comes from, understanding whiteboarding and film stuff. And one of the sessions we're going to do is some film review. We'll teach you guys how to watch film and what you should be watching when you watch college lacrosse games, when you watch pro lacrosse games, when you watch highlights, when you watch, your own team, or you watch the high school team. What should you be seeing when you're watching, right? And so Coach Anderson's also next week is going to go over an offensive presentation very similar to that, the one I did today. But hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. I hope it wasn't too advanced. I think you guys can all handle this. Some of the stuff is high school level, but I wanted to get you guys exposed to it, get you guys thinking about it. We're excited to get back out there whenever we can. Looking forward to finishing off the season, the spring, but being outside. But if we got to do webinars, if we got to do wall ball at home, we got to keep doing challenges on Instagram. So be it. We'll make the best of it, and that's one of the things that you guys have to do is make the best of it, right? We can't control it. That's what we told the high school guys. We can't control that there's a virus going around the entire world and it shut us down, right? But what we can control is what we do and how we react. So you guys keep getting better, keep taking care of your schoolwork and your stuff there, keep staying safe. Get out and get some lacrosse work in whenever you can. Check out videos online, tune into these webinar series, and just do everything you can to be the best you can be and react to this situation as positively as possible. So thanks for tuning in. If there's any other questions, you guys can respond to that email I sent out. But we're gonna finish up this webinar now. Thanks guys, really appreciate everybody signing on today. See ya.